Just what do you think you're doing, Dave?
Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel if this is your first time. My name's Gareth and this is Book, Songs and Other Magic, and I'm going to do a review of the year. So most of it's going to be related to the channel and reading and authors, books, that kind of thing. But I am going to talk about some personal stuff as well. So cracking straight on because I don't want this to be too long a video. It's been a good year for reading. To start off with, I'll just tell you that there's a bunch of authors that I've had a proper delve into for the first time and discovered authors, which is really cool. So it's a nice list of people I've discovered. So it's Adam Roberts, he's really good. S.A. Cosby, who I've gone on about all year. S.A. Cosby. Edgar Rice Burroughs, I read Princess of Mars earlier in the year. Paul Anderson, I read Town Zero and that was really good. Graham Masterton, not Graham Masterton, although might suit his style. Graham Masterton. So I read my first Graham Masterton book. That was really good. James M. Cain. So I read The Postman Always Rings Twice, and that was really good. Grady Hendrix. Finally read my first Grady Hendrix book, and I loved it. That was cool. Chester Himes. So Chester Himes is a classic crime writer and really interesting as well, actually. And I watched a documentary about him as well as I was reading the book. And really good. And James Baldwin. So I had read a book that was like a selection of his writing before, and I've seen lots of interviews with him, but this was the first proper book I'd read by him. So that was a great revelation, that was James Baldwin. Definitely want to read more of his stuff. I did a video already of my top 10 favourite books. So I do talk about the books in more detail, and I read some really good books this year. But I didn't talk about Day Tripper for some reason, the graphic novel. And Day Tripper, I must have just missed it out because it really was one of the highlights of the year, easily. And it had a huge impact on me, actually, Day Tripper. And so much so that I started a project, a very personal project, that I can't really tell you about because it's a kind of a surprise. But I will be telling you about it in about a week's time. So yeah, it really had a big effect on me, that graphic novel, Day Tripper. So if you haven't read that, definitely look out for it. It's really good. And I started reading Saga as well, so I've been enjoying that. The Saga graphic novel books by Brian K. Vaughan. So that was really good. And there was 3 book events that I was going to be juggling through the year, I thought. Like year-long things. So one of them was my Ray Bradbury deep dive, which has been really successful, and I'm loving it. And I'm on my 4th book with that. And it's going really well, and I know that I'm going to see that through, and it's going to be a consistent thing in my reading. I mean, a lot of them are going to be rereads, but the first 2 books weren't, and they were really interesting. So the Ray Bradbury deep dive has been great. Really enjoyed that, and hopefully it's been something you guys have enjoyed as well. There was something that I gave myself a challenge for that has been an absolute disaster, and which is the fairy tales and folk stories deep dive. I bought tons of books for it. I was really excited to do it, but it's really stalled at the first book. So I'm going to try it again in a different way next year. See if I can, as in 2024, see if I can get going with it better. But yeah, that didn't go very well. And through the year, I've been a co-host of Historathon, and that's been a successful thing on my channel, I think. And I've really enjoyed that, and I've enjoyed the Fox of Chats as well. So that's really cool. As far as book events that I've got involved in that weren't anything to do with me, if you like, there's the June on the Range, and I really enjoyed that, and I read True Grit. That was the best thing I'd read for June on the Range, True Grit, and that's definitely one of my favourite books. Really loved it. That was awesome. I was a co-host for Garb August, and I bought 57 books in all. I didn't even realise I was doing it. Obviously, most of them are really cheap. But yeah, I haven't kept all of them, but I've got a bunch of them ready for next year. And my favourite book out of that lot was Death of the Planet of the Apes, and that was really good. I bloody read that with Michael K. Vaughan, so that was really good. And I enjoyed getting involved in the Book Trek event as well, so I was a co-host for that. And out of the books I read for that, My favourite one was the first book in the trilogy called Destiny, Star Trek Destiny, and that's when they mix up a few different crews, and it's like a combined story. It's really good, and Ezra Dax was like the main character, which I thought was interesting. But quite a lot of people were in it, kind of well-known characters. But that was good. I need to read the other two. I bought the other two as well, but I didn't read them. So, yeah, that was good doing Book Trek. And also, another really nice event that I think was something unusual for BookTube was the Occult Detective October. Really enjoyed that, and it was a nice excuse to get back into Rivers of London. So I read the next Rivers of London book, so I enjoyed that. And so that was kind of a summary of how successful my reading has been this year. It's been really good. And if you combine what I've just said with the 10 best books of the year that I put it up about a week ago, I think, then you get a sense of some of the really successful reading experiences I've had. As far as the channel and my relationship with other booktubers, that's just gone sky high this year. It's been phenomenal. So I've met booktubers in real life for the first time this year, and that was a really big deal. So the first person I met was in May when I met MJ, and we had a day out in London, and that was brilliant. And we were already close, but I think we got a lot closer as well. And we literally talk every day, and it's brilliant. But we had a really good time in London, and we went around loads of bookshops, and it was really nice showing MJ foils. And then we went to a really old pub because they wanted to see an example of a really old pub, and so I looked up the oldest pub in London, and we went there. And that was really cool. I had a cider each, but that was a really nice day. And then shortly after that, I went to Bedford to visit Sean to help him pack some books, because Sean D. Standfast had to move, so he's had a really hectic year, and I was very pleased to help him out. And I also met Heather from Heather Reads that day, because we both helped him out on the same day, so that was really cool. So that was really nice, and I think that made a big difference with my relationship with Sean as well, even though, again, we were friends, and we'd done some live streams together and stuff, but it was nice to sort of spend 2 days with him as well. So that was really cool. And then in the summer, there was like 26 booktubers that met up in London. So I've talked about it a few times, so I won't go on about it, but that was so good. And it was a really nice sort of starting point to do it regularly, and we're all meeting up again in March. And there's talk of little clumps of people meeting up in between and stuff. And I know that if I'm in an area somewhere where one of them lives, I can go, I'm nipping down, E3 or whatever. So that was really cool. And so that was a really nice aspect of the year. That was a surprise, really. I wouldn't have known at the beginning of the year that would have happened. And that's kind of changed my attitude to other booktubers as well, because I feel like, I might meet these people, because, MJ doesn't even live in England. So all these people that I talk to that are American, I might meet them one day. So that'd be really cool. So, yeah, that's been a really nice aspect of the year as well. So going on to TV, there's been some really good things that have been on TV this year. I haven't watched masses of TV, but there was a clump of time in the spring and summer when there was loads on, and it was like really exciting. So House of the Dragon was on for a while, and that was a really successful show. I didn't like we watched it till the end, but I didn't really like the Rings of Power, the Lord of the Rings prequel series. And I think that's quite general, to be fair. I think a lot of people didn't, but I wanted to give it a real chance. But I thought there was lots of kind of wasted scenes, and there was a lot of sort of nothing was happening. And sometimes they'd conclude a little plot line, and you go, "Oh, really? That's where it's going," and that kind of thing. So yeah, didn't like Rings of Power much, but I loved House of the Dragon. I really loved Andor. Andor was an amazing show. So that was great to see that. So one of the Star Wars shows, and I personally really liked Mandalorian, even though some people on YouTube anyway didn't like it much, but I loved it. And I loved the series Picard. So that was concluded this year. and that was very special. So if you're a Star Trek fan, and especially if you're a Next Generation fan, you would have loved the third season. So lots of fan service there, but really well written, and that was really cool. And then obviously, probably to beat all of that, you had the adaptation of The Last of Us, which was just crazy, absolutely amazing. So that was really cool. I was trying to think of the films. Didn't have a proper dive, to be fair, like proper think about which films I'd seen. But the two that sprang to mind as far as two highlights for me for films that came out this year was the D&D film, which I loved, and I was really excited to see it, and then it didn't disappoint at all. I absolutely loved it. And Guardians 3. So, again, another film that I expected to be good, and it really was phenomenal. So, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and D&D Honor Among Thieves. Really loved those films. That was really good. And I continued to play D&D as well, by the way, through the year. And then we concluded our big 2.5-year campaign this year. And we're back on another game, because we're playing something else regularly. And yeah, it'd be nice if we go back to D&D. But yeah, that's really cool. Okay, so that's a lot of that stuff. So a few personal bits. As far as Bemis goes, we started recording a new album. So we're 7 tracks in. So that's all really good. And I'm going to start another conversation with the others about whether we want to reconfigure the album a little bit, because I feel like it'd be nice to make it a little shorter. And also, because of something I'm going to talk about in a second, we might want to change what we were doing for the album. I don't know. We'll see what we all decide. But yeah, really excited about the new stuff. And around Christmas time last year, When You're Not Around came out as a single, and that's on the new one. But there's a new song called Head First that I need to learn the lyrics of, because I love it. I can't wait to perform it. And me and Richie wrote that. And yeah, that's awesome. So I can't wait to get that song out there. And I can't wait for the new album to get out there, to be fair. So that's all good. So there's a new album coming out next year, and we're already halfway through it. So that's really good. And on the note of Bemis, towards the end of the summer, our long-term bass player decided to leave. So he'd been with us for 10 years. So that was a huge shock. I wasn't expecting it at all. It came out of nowhere. And he felt like he just wanted to do something else with his life and not put the time into Bemis. So it's fair enough. So I got a bit of hiccups. And so there was a little bit of a weird period in the up till recently, really. So a good few months of bass players depping, and it's all a bit, like learning specific songs for specific gigs. Whereas my attitude and the rest of the band's attitude is usually reading the room and changing the set sometimes, and you can't really do that if you've got a dep playing bass who's only learnt that set. So that kind of thing was a little bit more difficult. But we have a new bass player now, and he's great, so that's all good. Just mentioned my kids. So my daughter started working this year as a permanent member of the teaching staff. So that was brilliant. So we're both teaching in the same college. So that's really cool. So I see her a lot now. And we're sharing the experience of teaching in that college, which is quite good, because we've helped each other out a few times on different things as well. So that's really good. That's a bit special, working with your daughter, because she's awesome. You've seen her, if you've watched it, you've seen her on a live stream. She'll be back, I reckon, at some point. And also, my son joined the third band he's in, which is called Mud Coffee, and they're a brilliant band, and they've been really good for him as well. And I absolutely love them. I love the other guys. They're awesome people. So that's been really good as well for him and for us, really, because they're so good for him. So Mud Coffee's been good for my son Louis as well. And I've also started a new job. So I've still got the same job, but there's an extra little thing I do on a Thursday evening, like I do this sort of music related youth club, and that's been really rewarding and interesting. So that's been in addition to all these other things I'm doing. So that's been really good. And as far as my books go, that's been more productive and active than I realised. Because when I was thinking about it, is there anything I can say about my books? Well, actually there is, Gareth, because you published a book. So I brought out a poetry collection called Voices of the City, which was a little bit different. It was kind of like a themed poetry collection. So it was a bit of an experiment, where all of the poems are characters in a city. So I'm hoping it's a good collection. I think it's a good collection. I was quite proud of it when I put it out. And I also re-edited and reformatted my first book. So 10 Tales of Transformation, the one that's probably had the most attention, interestingly enough. That one is now out in a better quality, I'd say. So 10 Tales of Transformation, you can get it now. It's got a glossy cover rather than the other version. And yeah, that's got Ethel Pinchworthy on it and Brownie going on it and stuff. So yeah, 10 Tales of Transformation is out again. So that was actually quite a long process. That took me quite a bit of the summer. The other thing I did in the summer, which is a really massive thing that I didn't even think about talking about, but it was a big thing, and the results of it are more videos to come as well on the channel. And that's my massive unhaul when I went through every single book I had, because I counted 1,800 books, and I went through all the books trying to get rid of as many as I could, and I got rid of 300 books. And because I'd done this big unhaul, I also did some library tour videos as well. So so those library tour videos are to come on the channel. But it's been really good for me to do those, because it really focused my attention on what books I actually have and what my collection looks like. It also made me think, well, what collection do I want? Do I need to keep all those different books? And some of the books I decided to get rid of, it was because I thought, actually, I don't need to have this, or I'm going to not worry about having every single kind of encyclopedia or reference book that I wanted to have before. So that kind of thing. So that has been a really interesting experience. And that's it, I think. Oh, and I feel like it's a bit of a negative way to finish, but there's also been 3 significant bereavements as well. There's a friend of mine called Faisal, who played harmonica, who's an amazing harmonica player. And sadly, he died from suicide earlier in the year. And that was really sad. We actually did 2 memorial gigs early part of the year, because we did one for Faisal, but we also took part in another one that was for another friend that died late last year. So that was very sad. Also, in the middle of the year, I lost someone called Margaret, who was kind of a surrogate parent. So she, her and her husband Jeff were hugely important in my life as a 20-something, really, going through my 20s, because they basically owned the shop that I worked in for 11 years. And they were really important in my kind of maturing, and my time with them was also coinciding with when I met Ali, and when we got married, and when we had the kids, and when we set up a home, when we got a mortgage and all that sort of stuff. all those kind of things were happening with those two as kind of parental figures for me, really. So it was quite significant when she died. Jeff died a few years ago, but losing her was kind of like losing an end of an era, if you like, and that was quite a big thing. So we lost Margaret this year, and then there's Pax as well, which it wouldn't be right for me to do this video without mentioning her. We have mentioned her quite a few times on the channel, so apologies to anyone who didn't know her and are thinking, oh my god, he's saying it again. But she was an incredibly special person, and as I was saying earlier, you know, that our relationships are very real here, and we spoke to each other all the time, and I still miss her all the time now. I still think about Pax a lot, and lots of us felt Pax's loss. So yeah. So going back to the good stuff as well. Really good reading year. Discovered some really good authors. Had a lot of good times with the book events. Fantastic TV stuff. And loads of good stuff with the band, with some difficult stuff as well, but lots of good stuff with the band. And there we go. It wasn't too bad. 20-something minutes. Thank you so much for watching. And I really appreciate the fact as well that the channel numbers and the involvement and the position that what I do in the community has developed as well, and I do really appreciate that, because I do enjoy doing this, and I've said before that when you know someone's watching, your whole approach is different and it's much more relaxed and that sort of stuff. So I appreciate that, and please let me know which bits you've liked, which side of the reading you've preferred or had more enjoyment out of, and which events you've really enjoyed. And Happy New Year! Here's to a fantastic 2024. Thanks a lot, guys. Stay curious.
Paint me a picture of what it's like to be